It's time to hit rewind on some of our favorite home tours. Today we're visiting 5 homes, and they are all under 375 square feet. They're packed with clever storage, bold color, and some truly unexpected design choices. First, we're hitting a 6th-floor walk-up in Soho, where Libby and Zach's 350 square foot beachy retreat features IKEA shoe compartments that hold literally everything and ugly cabinets that became open kitchen shelves.
Hi y'all, I'm Libby.
And I'm Zach.
Welcome to our 350 square foot apartment
On the 6th floor of a Soho walk-up.
I would describe our style as beachy and Palm Springs-y. I think that there's something about these colors that are all very cheerful and happy, and even after climbing 6 flights of stairs, you can't help but feel better when you come inside.
We also feel like everything needs to have a place. Like everything needs to be able to put it away.
One of my favorite elements of our home is our artwork. When we were looking at this space, and it's such an awkward long hallway, we thought this is a perfect way to display all of our favorite photos and our favorite pieces of art. It's definitely been trial and error, a lot of FaceTiming my mom.
I think this currently is my favorite one.
Even in a space this small, I feel like we both get a lot of solitude and alone time.
When we first moved in, we would do this thing like we were pretending we're home alone.
Totally.
For the next hour, we're gonna pretend we're home alone. And I think that was a helpful practice to get us to where we are now, where it's like,
let's pretend we're both home alone and just like you don't have to chatter.
yeah.
The big aha moment was when we were walking through an IKEA and we were just sort of browsing, and we stumbled across these little shoe compartments. I have a whole drawer devoted just to crystal light, which is right here. Honestly, anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Sunscreen. If there's something in the house that we don't use, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Our bedroom is tiny. It absolutely could not even fit a queen-size bed, but we've got our bed up on one of those platforms that's about 18 inches high, and so under the bed we have more storage.
One of our biggest DIY projects was our kitchen cabinet situation. So when we moved in, it was a whole section of these like really dark, ugly cabinets. We took the cabinets out and put these shelves up. We can sort of see where everything is. It's easier to access. It's much easier to clean. We do have a challenge area still. So this little section here is very odd geometry, and even though it's right by a window, you'd think you'd want to put a table there or have a seat there, and we just can never make that work. And so
It's really small.
it is what it is, and we now call it the garage.
It's kind of nice to just accept that that space was never going to be some little Parisian cafe, and that it's just going to be a holding area for a lot of gear that we needed space for. I think that one thing that I thought we really needed to have was a ton of windows. And I kind of learned through living here that it's more about having the right windows. And then I also was a little bit disappointed when we first moved in at like the overhead lighting is just really aggressive. It's like an asylum. And so we've ended up hanging, I think, like 15 pendants throughout the apartment.
I think there are 2 things.
Okay.
One is don't be afraid to paint. And I think the other one is learn how to use toggle bolts, drywall anchors, like learn how to actually physically change your space.
We love to cook and we love to be at home, and I always kind of wanted to have one of those apartments where you could come home after work on a Friday night and not leave again until Monday morning, and that for us I think is this place.
Next, we're visiting Christine's 350 square foot apartment in Prospect Heights, a place where, after devastating loss, she filled every corner with bold color and DIY projects that helped her heal.
Hi, Apartment Therapy. I'm Christine and this is Chloe. Welcome to our 350 square foot apartment in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. I love things that make me smile, like things that have a sense of humor behind them. My inspiration, honestly, was reaction to grief. My dad died at the beginning of the pandemic, and one of my best friends died a few weeks later. It was almost like a sense of mania, where it's like, I cannot sit here. Like, I cannot be still. I have to get out and do things and make things. The place where I was living was smaller than this, but it was also very dark. My view was literally a brick wall. It felt like a little bunker. So in one sense, it felt very safe, but in another sense, it just felt very isolating. So when I moved here and woke up to the light in the space, I just felt thirsty for it. Like, I just wanted to revel in it. I didn't want to put any curtains up. And with everything that's gone on in the city for the past year, just being able to witness the Black Lives Matter marches down Eastern Parkway, when Biden won the election, just screaming out the window and seeing everyone in the streets just celebrating, like, it feels really joyous, and having those literal windows on the world helps me feel a lot more connected to this community that I love so much. So, yeah. This is my living room. This space really came together and was inspired by this Turkish rug that I bought on Etsy. I really used that as a roadmap for the rest of the color story. The walls are painted in deep mauve from Benjamin Moore. So this is my kitchen. This was definitely the most ambitious DIY. When I signed the lease, I knew that I had to do something to the kitchen. I had some ideas, but I didn't know that I necessarily trusted my gut that I could do it. And I called one of my best friends in LA, my friend Katie. She gave me this vote of confidence beyond having a project, something to do with my hands and my brain. Just having that companionship was so invaluable to the space, but also to me, my mental health at the time. And it was really fun. Like, I would recommend to anyone, like, renovate an apartment with your best friend who lives 3,000 miles away. Like, it'll be goofy and a lot of late nights, drinking wine and painting and chatting, and it was really a great time. So this is my workspace. My favorite thing in the space is my businesswoman sign. It just cracks me up. It's like, I don't consider myself a businesswoman, but I should. I put some masks that I had made on Instagram last year, and they sold out immediately. So that was definitely a thing for a while. The website, it's called Maverick Goods. The Maverick was the name of my dad's sailboat. And so that's kind of how that came to be. So this is my sleeping area. When the stairs were put in here, the movers actually flipped them. So the bottom step is a little bit high, but I found that I actually preferred the way that it fit in the space. And now I'm used to it, and I think it works. I think for me, home has really come to mean a place where I feel safe, to build a place where I could really be myself. You know, I think my mom was really a good model for that, to not be afraid to take on something that feels impossible, because it's not.
Now we're traveling to Toronto to tour Elise's 300 square foot micro studio. It's packed with small space ideas, including a Murphy bed, renter-friendly wallpaper, and a projector instead of a TV.
Hi everyone, welcome to my apartment. I live in a 300 square foot micro studio. Today I want to show you some decorating tips and tricks to really maximize your small space. So when I moved in, this micro studio was essentially an empty box for me to fill. And what I realized is there was no storage space, so I had to add a lot of hooks for all the things that I had. So here, right by the entrance, I have all of my purses and bags that I can grab and go. Here I have my bulkier winter jackets, things that won't fit in the closet. And here I have a cute little jewelry organizer that I made myself with just thumbtacks and a pin board. Here I have a clothing rack from Umbra. It stores some of my bulkier items for winter, as well as just some things I like to keep out. Like this coat I have nowhere else to put, and it's my favorite coat at the moment, so it's hanging right here. Very close to the front door is my shoe rack. Placing this right up against the kitchen island, which cannot be moved, was really helpful because it makes it look like all one big furniture piece. This is my closet. As you can see, it is packed to the brim and there is nothing else I can stuff in here, which is why I have a lot of other additional storage scattered around my space. This is actually a great renter-friendly tip, is to use wallpaper instead of paint. It took a lot of time and grit to get through all the little nooks and crannies of the doorknob and things, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. Let's talk about mirrors. I love a good mirror moment, especially at the front entrance before I head out, or a full-length mirror where I can check my outfit. Mirrors are super important no matter what kind of space you have, to bounce off the light, to make the space feel brighter, but I think especially in a small space, having mirrors in multiple places really help make the space feel more airy and bright. Another great tip I really took to heart was bringing the eyes up. Putting things higher up on your ceiling, whether that's hanging things off the ceiling or just hang pictures up along the ceiling like I did here, really draws the eyes up and makes the space feel bigger. Another thing I really wanted for my space was a rug, and when I was rug shopping, a lot of the prints were like really small repeating prints, and I actually discovered that makes your space feel smaller. So having abstract, oversized prints for your rug will make your space feel bigger than it is. When I first moved in, the place was fully furnished and I hated all of the furniture that it came with, except for this Murphy bed I kept. And I'm so glad I did, because I've never had a Murphy bed before, and at first I thought I would want to get rid of it. Like, the idea of pulling and pushing up a bed twice a day, every day, seemed crazy to me. But because I live in a studio, it actually is really great because I can tuck it away for the day. I'm not someone who likes to eat in bed or work in bed, so I really only sleep in bed. So let me show you how this comes down. You might be wondering where my pillows and covers and all of that are, so I do have to remove them, and I put them in this storage box right here. I actually made this cover to help blend in with the space and make it a bit less of an eyesore. Unfortunately, there was just no room or way for me to have a TV in here, and you might be having this problem as well in your space, so a really great option is to have a projector. You don't have to have a blank wall to have a projector. You can actually get a projector screen, which is what I did. And it's like having movie night every single night. So obviously I live in a very small space, but I also work from home. So it was very important that I had a dedicated workspace, even in such a small apartment. So this became my little office nook. I have a perfectly sized standing desk here in the corner. It was actually quite hard to hunt down. A lot of the mainstream standing desk brands don't offer this size, but I found this one on Amazon. Also, having a super comfy chair was important, so this one I have from Umbra. But yeah, I spend Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 sitting here, so it's super important that the space is aesthetic but also functional. Another great decor tip if you have a small space is to hang your curtains from floor to ceiling. Even if you don't have floor to ceiling windows, it really makes the space feel elongated and tall and much bigger than it is. When I moved in, there's only 3 corners of the studio that I can designate to certain functions. And one of those corners I've decided to make a coffee and tea bar. But with that said, that's only the top surface. And I realized with all of the clothes that I have, it very quickly became a clothing storage unit as well. So the first 6 months living in this micro studio was very stressful to me because I mentioned I got rid of a lot of the things the previous owner left because it just was not my style. But then I was very mindful and intentional in bringing any new piece of furniture in, because I knew if it didn't work out in the way I imagined, it's not like I could just tuck it somewhere else. There was nowhere else for things to go. So I really had to think about, where my desk would be, where my mirror would go. It was really important that I designated spaces for certain activities. If I was working, I was at my desk, I was either sitting or standing right by the window. That really kind of gave me energy. What I find most important is to make the space feel like yours and yours only.
In Philadelphia, Erin's 350 square foot cottage became a fresh start after her divorce. She leaned into the bright yellow walls and she started editing her life down to what really matters.
Hi, Apartment Therapy. Welcome to my 350 square foot cottage in Philadelphia. I am a teacher and I've been living in this cottage since summer of 2019. Before I moved into this space, I had recently gone through a divorce and I was looking to really live alone again for the first time in a decade. And I was spending a lot of time thinking about what kind of space felt like me. I was really nervous about these yellow walls. I considered painting before I moved in because I wasn't sure how it was going to all work, but these walls really spoke to me in a way that made me feel like I needed to lean into the bright yellow and the light fixtures that are all colorful. I guess this is the season of my life where I'm going to live out this cottage floral burst of energy and happiness and go with it while I'm in this space. The layout was the biggest challenge in this space because there are so many windows that there's not a ton of places where you can fit a bed. And I really don't like putting big furniture in corners because it just feels like it closes off the space. So I knew that I was going to want to float my bed from the one wall where it would actually fit. I also wanted to make sure that when I was working from home, my students didn't see my entire space from where I was working. So I wanted to sort of tuck away in a little corner. When I do entertain, it often means tucking things away. I get creative. I put things in my microwave, I put things in the dryer, I put things in the shower, just so that I can feel like if I'm in the middle of some kind of project, that stuff can be out of the way. The bathroom in my place is pretty great. It has a bathtub, which is awesome. I didn't expect. There's also room in there for a shelf, so I can keep a lot of my items stored in there pretty nicely. To me, organization is secondary. I think that you really need to edit and re-edit your belongings. Getting rid of so many of my possessions when I went through my divorce and moving into this space really made me have new insight about how much meaning we ascribe to objects. And I kind of have moved into a phase where I'm much less sentimental about stuff. And that makes it much easier to edit and donate and give something to a friend. I use the under bed storage mostly for clothes that are out of season, sheets, and bags. I have a dresser in my closet. I have a chest of drawers that I previously have used for clothes in other spaces, and it now houses spices, linens for the kitchen, and I love it. Books have always been something that I've moved with me from New York to Chicago, from Chicago to Philly, and I realized that I could not take my entire book collection here, but I still really wanted bookshelves in my space. I tried thinking of installing floating shelves. I looked at various bookcases. It was going to take up so much wall space or real estate that I didn't want to lose, and I just became okay with having them stacked in the corner. And I will have a bookshelf again someday, but I don't right now, and that's fine. I guess there was a sort of alchemy that happened with changes that happened in my personal life and moving to this space that there was this parallel experience of editing down on my possessions and relationships. I thought that meant that I was going to only wind up with a little bit of what was left of my old life, but in the process I've realized that I've really created a new life for myself, and this Cottage has really been sort of the foundation for that evolution.
Now let's check out Bonnie's West Village nest, where the dishwasher stores crackers instead of dishes, and the living room doubles as a movement studio.
Hey Apartment Therapy, it's Bon. Welcome to my 375 square foot nest in the West Village. I am the founder of The Floss, a movement platform that helps educate people about their fascia, their connective tissue matrix. What's special about my apartment here is that it turns into a studio where I pull in my floss community. I love that I teach out of my home because I think it helps my community know who I am. So here we are. When we first get into the apartment, we're in the kitchen, the most important room of my place. I usually have a lot of fresh produce ready to rumble. The storage in the kitchen, we utilize things that we're not using on the everyday, on the highest shelf, and things that we want to get to, obviously, lowest shelf. So when I'm cooking myself dinner, I oftentimes pull over this big chopping block, and it gives me double the counter space, even though I have a decent amount of counter space for such a small kitchen. I don't use my dishwasher to wash dishes. I actually use it to store shit. But I'm a one-person show, so like I'm just washing a couple dishes. I actually like the act of washing dishes, and being from California, I'm drought aware, so I try not to waste water while I'm doing that. So, you know, that's a thing too. And then the other fun but silly thing of my apartment is that my compost lives in the freezer. It's such a wonderful act to do when you have your excess produce, you keep it in the freezer, then your trash doesn't stink. You have less critters attracted to your apartment because this is New York City. And this little living room space is special because it turns into my magic movement studio where I lead the floss community. Right here, I pop my mat down and we're ready to move our bodies. Okay, storage solution people, let's talk. I have one tiny closet in this apartment. We're utilizing the shelf above to stack all the jeans and all the sweaters. We have storage under the bed. I know this is a conflicting thing, but there's no way in God-given hell that this apartment would work without the storage under the bed. We have extra baskets, try to make the storage look beautiful and just kind of mesh into the space. All the extra sheets go into a basket. We have a basket for a hamper. We have a basket for the office supplies and my tools, tech things like cords, etc. There's a lot of baskets in here. Then under here is an old cedar chest I found in Santa Barbara. I think I'm attached to cedar chest because my mom has one in our home. I didn't go for a couch in my apartment because I'm such a floor person that I wanted a lot of space to just sit on the floor or sit in that low chair. And oftentimes I'll sit on some blocks right here and do my work on the computer. The versatility of the space, even though it's small, gives me a lot of options in terms of how I want to be, since I do have to work on the computer. Even though I'm a movement teacher, there's a lot of tech stuff involved, so we have to be on the laptop sometimes. This is my bedroom. And the bed is, for me, the most central part of the apartment. I love to make my bed in the morning. It's like a creativity project, and there's so much light in here. It really is a central factor in creating serenity and a sense of peace, because when I'm working in here and I look over here and this is beautiful, seeing beauty is seeing God, right? So here we go, we keep things really nice. My bedside tables, well, they're not real bedside tables. It was very challenging to find pieces that would fit in these tiny little side nuggets. And so this one on this side is actually a camping stool, a folding stool that I put a tray on top that I then put French linen on top. So it's like a hidden secret bedside table. It's kind of embarrassing, but we make it work. So the bathroom, another space that's lovely to keep clean. I have a third skylight in there, which is amazing. Yeah, I don't really have to turn on the lights in the daytime, so my electric bill is low. Being a single person in New York for most of the time I've lived here, I've really had to hone in on being by myself a lot. And I'm an only child, so I'm already good at that. But I think designating between recognizing being alone and recognizing feeling lonely are two different things. And I'm really good at self-entertaining. I love to read at night. But not having my family in the city in particular, you learn how to create family with yourself and with chosen family, best friends, etc. Home is family, and there's lots of ways to do that, I think.
From a beachside retreat to a movement studio in the West Village, these 5 homes show us that 375 square feet is more than enough to start over, heal, and build exactly the life that you want.